Good morning. So we're in the last part of chapter 6. It's called the Imago, the search for original connecting. And we've looked at the different stages of a relationship, the romantic love, and now at the end of this chapter deals with what happens when partners are locked in the power struggle. So the romantic love, and then inevitably it shifts into a power struggle. Now, our brain has a negativity bias. Think about it. For millions of years, thousands of years, it had to be on the lookout for danger. All right? The first response of the brain to a new signal is this dangerous or safe? Until proven safe, it's dangerous. That's a negativity bias. If you're looking at the tiger coming down the road, it's not, is it safe? Is it a pussycat? No, it's dangerous until proven otherwise. When a signal is read as dangerous, whether it is or not, the brain selects from three major options of the autonomic nervous system: fight, flight, or freeze, to shut down. Obviously, the maximizer's favorite choice is to fight: shouting, swearing, breaking things, etc. If those don't work, then the second option is to flee, leave the scene, slam the door, etc. The minimizer, in response to that, his or her first response tends to be to flee inward: silence, withdrawal, stonewalling. And if either of those two options don't work for either the maximizer or the minimizer, the third option is simply to shut down, go numb, freeze. And these are just responses of our old brain, our primal brain, to danger. And I'm not knocking the old brain. It's kept me alive all the years. I just don't want it to ruin my marriage. All right? And the irony of the power struggle is, of course, is that our partners really can't give us what we're demanding, even if they wanted to, which they probably do, because they don't have it to give, nor do we. Remember, from an Imago point of view, we tend to be attracted to someone who has both the positive and negative traits of our family of origin. And because that's what's familiar to us. We live with somebody for 18 years, and then we are attracted to something that's familiar. So, for example, remember, this is always subjective perception of the child, but suppose I felt dismissed as a kid. I wasn't heard, wasn't listened to, what I had to say wasn't important. Well, it's not going to, or it shouldn't come as a surprise if the same feeling gets triggered by my partner. And then in a reactive relationship, we tend to respond the same way we did as a kid, either to fight, flight, or freeze. Now, the authors borrow from, some of you might be familiar with the grief model of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross back in the 60s, the stages of grief. And when she worked with cancer patients and recognized these, certain predictable stages, not that they would, not in lockstep, but they tend to happen. So shock, first of all, and they're saying in the power struggle, you've had romantic love and now it's shifting into the power struggle. So there's shock, denial, anger, bargaining, despair, and finally acceptance. All right? And in the acceptance phase, partners come to, as the authors say, come to the inevitable conclusion that in this relationship, and in this relationship anyway, they're not going to get the love they want. At this point, they have three options. They can leave the relationship, remain in the relationship, or get some help. And, I'm going to look at the first two options today and explore the getting some help option next week when we look at a more conscious relationship. Because that's what brings people into my office. Not everybody chooses to do that, but those that come to the office, they're in that same predicament. Do you stay, do you leave, or do you get some help? The first option, to leave the relationship completely by divorce or separation. Remember, in Canada, it's like 40%. And we would say of the second option, to stay in the relationship, a lot stay in a fairly hot relationship or a cold relationship where the passion's gone. And as they say, the authors say, to be fair, hot relationships that have a bit of the proverbial silver lining. These couples put a lot of energy into their relationship. The caveat, however, is that the high level of energy that they invest in their relationship is predominantly negative, coming in the form of criticism, invalidation, and other types of negativity that are often worse than the childhood drama that's being replayed. All right, so remember I said people stay, but It can be a hot relationship where there's a lot of fighting, or a cold relationship where the passion's gone. Cold relationships generally exhibit less energy and tend to fall into two categories: the parallel marriage and the invisible divorce. And for the parallel marriage, they say, think of a set of railway tracks that has two parallel pieces running alongside one another, but no horizontal pieces connecting the tracks together. That's a good analogy for a parallel marriage. Physically, the partners are still together, dwelling under the same roof, and even having conversations. Although they may exchange information, they aren't sharing what's important to them, what they're experiencing in their day-to-day lives, or what's going on inside their heads. The invisible divorce, now, again, I'm quoting the authors here, Imago's term for relationships characterized by infidelity and other serious types of relationships exits, behavior patterns that dissipate the energy needed to keep a couple's relationship alive, is the invisible divorce. They remain in their relationship and continue inflicting tremendous pain on each other in the process. Now, why would they do that? The primary reason couples adapt to their relationship with such negative interaction is the prime driver of the power struggle itself, the hope for need satisfaction paired with the fear of intimacy. So, we want something, but we're afraid of it. We want intimacy, but then and they explain, it seems, therefore, it's better for some couples to complain about the absence of intimacy, but to be sure they don't experience it again, rather than to go back and lose it again. So they've had it, and they don't want to go through that pain again, so they avoid the possibility of it, and it's the invisible divorce. So now remember where we're going is to a conscious relationship, but the end of this chapter was sort of 18 characteristics of an unconscious relationship. And I'm not going go through them all, but here's some examples. Each partner in an unconscious relationship assumes their world is the world and is objectively true. My way or the highway. And as we would say, you can be right or you can be in a relationship. In an unconscious relationship, each person is the center and the other is on the periphery. And in a conscious relationship, it's the space between. You work on the relationship, and these things will take care of itself. Unconscious partners see the relationship as a resource for themselves rather than an entity in itself that needs their care, the space between. Anyway, in chapter 7, so we're going to move to chapter 7 to what they call a conscious partnership. What does it look like, its features, how they're acquired, and the contrast between unconscious and conscious couples. So that's where I'll start next week. So we've been building up to, the stages of a relationship that people fall in love and there's a power struggle, but we can move to a more conscious relationship, but we have to be conscious, we have to be aware. Okay, so we'll get there next week. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Cheers.